Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Homescreen. Today we're going to be talking about Emma, the UK-based PFM app. Hey and welcome to Homescreen by 11FS Pulse. I'm your host Jim Safford, product analyst here at 11FS Pulse.
And I'm Tunde Bolaji, UI designer here at 11FS Pulse.
How you doing, Tunde? All right, man?
It's good, man. It's good to be back.
Yeah, you've been away for the past last week or so, haven't you?
Yeah, you guys replaced me for better people, but it's good to be back. It's good to be back.
Absolutely. Cool. So Homescreen is a show all about product and design where we showcase some of the best examples of user experiences from the 11FS Pulse research platform. If you don't already know what that is, it's our benchmarking tool here at 11FS, which includes over 2,500 user journeys from financial services products around the world. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about Emma. Tunde, what is Emma for people who don't know?
So Emma is a UK-based personal financial management app which allows users to see all of their financial products, be those current accounts or investments, in one sort of really powerful analytics platform.
Cool. And why are we going to be looking at this today?
Because there was somewhat of an interest in the app for both of us, actually. Not only is Emma like the leading charge from an open banking perspective, allowing users to access their financial data via third-party APIs, but the product's really robustly designed, including loads of interesting features we've seen from different products like dating apps.
Cool. That sounds really good. I guess we'll just have to get cracking on with it then.
Yeah.
So what you'll see from this video, first off, is a really nice overview of the way you can swipe away different sort of features within the dashboard. You've got this sort of really nice ability to see your last week's spending, and then in a sort of like dating app style format, you're able to swipe left or right on things that you either dislike or don't like about the product. So in this instance, again, we've swiped left to get rid of that. And here we've also got a really nice use of different colors to, and really nice bouncy interactions as well. Also, we've got this rolling through until the end, and nice use of a GIF at the end to finish it off. And then finally, some sort of sharing metrics and rating information. I was really interested here by the idea of like arranging your own sort of dashboard. You saw here like the ability to sort of swipe and get rid first and foremost of the dashboard elements, and also to like X out and things like that. It seems like a really interesting trope. So kind of, I guess the first question is, who else is sort of playing in this place from a product perspective that you've been interested in? And are they doing anything kind of similar?
Firstly, let me get like a better understanding. So this swiping aspect that they have over there, is that to, let's say you swipe something left, would that remove it from your feed, or would that sort of tell them how your feed becomes better? More personalized? Is that what happens with that?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. So it works in two ways. So the first one is you get rid of that, especially in the first instance of the dashboard, removing that area of interest for you, and that will repopulate again later on in the flow when you've got new financial data. But there's also like the sentiment analysis section, which you also hint at there, like I disapprove of this area of my spendings. I'm not happy with this function, and that's I think a particularly interesting facet of this, and also sort of works into that sort of behavioural element that we've talked a few times in the different shows. So yeah, they've definitely got that, and then they've also got the ability to sort of push that data in via sort of these third-party APIs, as we mentioned before.
Yeah, I think this is interesting. So like there's two ways I'm kind of looking at it. So the first way is, just from how you organize your feed. I think that's really interesting. So you see Yolt, they start off with daily insights, just like actions and targets they feel like they have for you. And then then they go back into more of your spending history. But here it's more, and even who else? Albert, I think they start with...
They're the Canadian PFM product, right?
Yeah, they start with just alerts and then go straight into like their budget. And I think they don't really offer you the ability to customize that kind of how your feed appears to you. And I think that's really, really cool. And then next to the behavioral aspect, I think one of my like biggest fintechs that I'm personally a fan of is Joy. And they really sort of like delve in, that's their bread and butter, the behavioral aspect of banking, and how their design triggers into channels into your feelings and how you feel about your spending. And I think they do like an amazing job at that. And they've actually incorporated this whole swiping left and right to talk about the sentiments of your spending. And I think like looking at what these guys have done, taking information from what they've done, I think they've done a really good job at that, and
Cool.
I'm a big fan of them.
We did talk a little bit about Joy in probably the second episode of this series, so if you want to go and check that out, there's some really good insights on that sort of, on the way that all works from a data entry and data capture perspective. But yeah, definitely an interesting product, and part of a larger sort of ecosystem of players like Emma, like Joy, and like Albert in Canada and so on, companies that are really taking advantage of this this status of being able to pull in data.
And I think, just real quick on that note, I think like the aggregator design propositions are is a much more tougher one than we see in terms of like just your digital bank. The reasons why you'd go to an aggregator is different from why I'd go to like check my Monzo account. I'm checking my Monzo account purely to see like my transaction history, and that's what you see a load of these guys lead with their transaction data. Whereas here it's there's a variety of reasons as to why I wanted to aggregate my accounts, and I think like to these guys giving sort of each user their own personal ability to say, here's why I've come here to. Here's why I've come to an aggregator, therefore here's why my feed should look like this. I think that's like a really cool personalization aspect that they've introduced here as well, that sort of caters to like each user at their independent personal place.
Definitely, and I think there's something really interesting there around, and this touches on what we're going to talk about in a second, but the ability to see top level data about your account. Like obviously with the PFM you've got more of a responsibility to capture all of that information in one space. So like being able to quickly draw conclusions based on what they can put in front of you is really nice, and obviously like Emma being able to sort of throw that information right at the top and say, yeah, if you want to see this, then fine, look at it. If not, then swipe and get rid of it, and we'll bring up the next thing that we want to look at. And so the second part of this, what we were really interested in, was this sort of like swiping left and right from a sentiment perspective. So we've seen this happen a lot this is a trend which is, well, it's exclusively for dating apps. This is what dating apps have been built on. That's how their virality's come about, and that's how their stickiness has worked as well. So so we'll talk, I guess there's an interesting stat here which is about Tinder. So like Tinder's average user logs in 11 times a day, spending about 77 minutes daily. And what are they looking for? They're looking for like a dopamine hit, right?
Definitely.
That's the main thing. And then so I think this is a really interesting instance of Emma trying to replicate that sort of sentiment. That obviously they're not trying to kind of do the same thing, because you're not going to date your money, are you? But like you can sort of very easily say, oh, I've seen this experience before in a dating app. Just by really swiping and doing that, I'm replicating the process. I'm sort of mirroring what's happened from a feature perspective in that app, in this one. And that's a really fascinating thing, like that mirroring. And it's kind of surprising that we haven't seen a little bit more of that. Like
I think for me, like my takeaway from that is when you like strip it down to its core, what essentially are we doing in dating apps? If I like something, swipe it to one side. If I don't like something, swipe it to the other. And it's kind of like a tough translation into like spending, but they seem to have done it like really, really well. And I think I hope we see more of this now, and I'd love to see like the kind of metrics the kind of testing metrics that they've acquired from this.
There's behavioural elements to this, isn't there? Like they must be picking up info all the time on their kind of users based on what they like and dislike about their finances, and that capture all seems super powerful. Yeah, definitely. So there is a sort of a nice set of interactions that are going on in the app as well here, and sort of the way that the swiping works, and then every single time you do that, a little animation will sort of bounce or something. There's always something. An action is always reciprocated with another action. In the sense of the work that's going on there. And then we've got this sort of final GIF, which is like a celebratory. It's a rewarding mechanism, right? And we've seen that before. It's becoming increasingly more popular now. Embedding GIFs into the project. I guess it does sort of set an age cap though on the type of people that you're appealing to. Do you reckon there's any truth in that?
I don't know. I think like people of all ages are becoming sort of more used to these design patterns, and we'll start seeing them in more places than just Tinder dating apps. I think in time these design patterns they will transcend sort of age barriers, because I think they are, like as you said, at its core it's this sort of feedback you get from swiping left and then seeing this thing. And I think
Sure.
that kind of delight,
it's a chemical reaction.
yeah, that kind of chemical reaction is independent of age. And I think eventually we will see like more brands outside of fintech as well, just sort of like adopt this ability to kind of like even if it's not swiping in Tinder-esque, the ability to sort of like receive feedback from a UI element.
Sure. And then that really nicely brings us on to the final section. So the last part of the app you might remember is there was a nice area which included sort of providing a rating or sharing with a friend or anything like that. So there's definitely like Emma's able to gather feedback, very, very quantitative feedback based on the experience of that particular journey. The end of that journey is followed by the user, by the product requesting you to rate it. And then the other one is there's the network effect. So the ability to sort of say, I've enjoyed this experience, therefore I want to share this with my friends. And it's a very clear set of calls to action within the tile, which say, okay, I want to now share this and link it out to my social channels and things like that. I think what's interesting there is very, very easy actions for the user. Like it requires nothing for them to like click on the star that they want, and it's a very, very common design pattern. And also in terms of the sharing element, that requires very little effort because you're being nudged right away straight towards the button which is going to help you to share it. Is that a really good way, do you think, of like sharing products? Is there any other ways you've come across before which
Not entirely, because like sharing is still something that I'm personally sort of like torn on. I'm not entirely sure how like, and I'd like feel free like if anyone is out there, tweet me, send me information to say otherwise. But I'm not sure how much like people are willing to tweet out their spending, or like Snapchat or Instagram, their sort of spending habits. So like for me, it's still like something I see it everywhere. I see the ability to share everywhere, and I guess it's no harm in giving people the ability to share that. But I've never sort of like looked at my like spending and thought, hey, I'd love to like show everyone on Snapchat that I've kind of like not spent this much this month. But still yet to be sort of proven wrong on that.
And what about like the network effect? So being able to like get users to sign up for a product. I guess we were talking a little bit about this a few weeks ago, which is the idea of how do you promote your friends and people within your general network to start using products. And the cash incentives just don't work. You need that sort of like cross-border, like I get a benefit from using this product and you get a benefit from using this product because of how good and easy it is to use. But I'm not really sure, like with something like Revolut, for example, where a Revolut user being able to very easily sort of generate and send a payment by their friend being also on Revolut. I'm not sure where that's coming from with Emma. Emma seems very personal, sort of very integral. It's one of those things which you take, which you as an individual will find a lot of value in, but maybe it's not they're not a payment information service provider, which is, just to run down on that, this is the second stage of open banking legislation coming in. So what this says is the first stage required big banks to open up their APIs, which would then allow third-party data to be pulled in from financial services. The next stage of that is the payment initiation service provider function, which will allow companies like Emma, companies like Yolt, to generate payments. So on behalf of the customer, on behalf of their bank, they'll be able to send payments via this platform, which is not their bank, it's a PFM. So they're able to sort of call the bank and say, we want you to send this payment for this user. So we're not quite there yet, but there is a potential case here where the user could be saying, if I share this with my friends, then maybe we both will get benefit from using this in the future. And that's when products like this become quite interesting, right?
Definitely.
Not only when you start sucking in all the information, but when you're able to sort of, when there's a payoff, yourself. So I think we've covered that pretty well. Any resounding thoughts?
No.
Pretty nice feature.
Yeah. No,
it's not a bad little feature. I think like integrating these different elements, which are not synonymous with finance.
It's a tough field to stand out in. I think like we've been at this sort of digital banking thing for a while now, and I think a lot of sort of like the really established design patterns have already been there. So it's really hard for someone to come in and sort of go against the mold, because a lot of testing has been done, a lot of sort of research has been done to
Yeah.
show people that, hey, this thing works, and I think it's safe for you guys to do. I mean, me and Simon a couple of weeks ago were talking about sort of how like the Australian neobanks are sort of like, they're now coming into the scene, and they're taking a lot of lessons from what they've learned over here. And it's because, once again, we have like these really established design languages and patterns that people have time tested and to do well. So like to see like Emma make an attempt, and a really good attempt. Like I said, I'd love to see sort of like their testing metrics and how far they've come with it, and how well sort of like these new sort of gamification is treating them.
Yeah, very good. Cool, so we're going to take a look at another video now. We have the savings and the investment products. This includes different crypto exchanges, pensions, investment products. And then into the analytics area, you've got this sort of pay period. Which merchants we've used, in this instance, be that a card provider or be that a company like Uber, Sainsbury's. So there's probably something to a few news articles to go through first from a sort of product perspective. The first one is they've integrated with Chip. So you can see on the Emma dashboard, if you go in there, the ability to sort of link up with Chip, which is a savings platform which rounds up spare change and that kind of thing. And it's interesting because there's a lot of money going through Chip at the minute. They're sort of saving their customers around 7 million every month in the UK here. And they've recently carried out the largest crowdfunding round in UK history. So like this is a big product and a big one for them to be getting in. So actually having that information coming through their UI that's a fascinating thing. And then the second one is a partnership with a company called Salt Edge. So these are I think they're based in Canada or something like that. Okay. They're an API provider. Think someone like TrueLayer here in the UK, someone who facilitates API connections. So the process of connecting your third-party information into your product. They've got more than 3,100 connected banks, and they represent 250,000 plus daily active users. So they've got a lot of users that Emma can just like say, hey, we want to get that involved. So they're the kind of key marquee features that they've just introduced this year from a back-end perspective. And linking the investment products here is interesting because you're getting a more complete financial picture in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, once again, it's about sort of what is the pitch for sort of like getting yourself an aggregator. It is on one hand, it could, well, for me, it was personally, all of these various accounts that I have, put them in one place, and now you get at this extra layer where it's no more just about like my spending, it's about sort of like what I'm investing. Is free trade one of the things you can integrate? So free trade is an account that I have as well. Okay. So like this is, it adds another layer to sort of the whole aggregator market, and I think, I'm excited to see how they integrate all into like sort of one coherent ecosystem.
Yeah. It's an interesting play here because not only are they looking at spending and kind of like the day-to-day of what's going on, but introducing this investing area is sort of like they're saying, okay, we've looked at this current day-to-day area. Now we're going to start looking long-term for you. You can integrate your pension with Pension B. Okay. You've got your investment products. You've got your crypto assets. You've got all those kind of things. Emma is a registered AISP, so that is an account integration service provider. This is part of the open banking legislation, again, that we've talked about. And what this means is that they've got no real agreement with the banks, but what they can do is they have access to pull that data into their platform. So they're existing right at the beginning and in the current process of open banking as early as it is, but they've got a lot of information on their users. And now they're thinking of interesting ways to present it. One thing I was interested in here was the different ways that they were showcasing all of that top level data. So you've got the transactions feed and the categories and stuff, but then you've also got like the ability to see it in pies and then in these sort of bar charts and things like that. And I would usually expect to see this sort of thing in like a desktop platform, not like in an app. But they seem to be doing a pretty good job of showing it all.
That sort of takes your product to the next level and helps you sort of helps users kind of like engage better with their spending and the kind of data they're looking at. So I think it's really cool that they've done that instead of just kind of telling you what and how you've kind of spent.
Yeah.
Then personally, there are a couple things I'd say. I think Monzo do a really good job at sort of telling you how much is incoming and outgoing without sort of actually telling you, and it's something as subtle as just sort of colouring the charts.
Yeah.
So I think Monzo have green for incoming, red for outgoing, and those are sort of like colours which kind of stand out to you. You kind of know green's good, red's bad.
Yeah.
And I think like having it, I think what they currently have is one. Emma currently have is one colour.
Right.
Spending is white, and then income is a chart that's in transparent color. And I think once again, like you can help sort of avoid that kind of confusion if you kind of just give them colors to kind of let people know from an overview.
That's right, and that's basic color theory, isn't it? It's right, the idea of like you nudge users towards better behaviors based on a color which they associate with good and bad.
Exactly.
Green for good, as you mentioned, and red for bad. And that's a very, very common trope that we've seen a lot on pulls. But what do you think of like the overall colors of the app, like the gradients?
You know what, they've come a long way. So like when I first was introduced to Emma was a while ago, a few months back. I felt like their gradient use was a bit too heavy. There was like,
what do you mean by that?
Where you see gradients in design, and it's we've kind of like take a step back. Since material design, Google's material design came out in 2014, we've kind of like been in this new like flat design era, flat colors, plain colors, minimalism, that kind of stuff are kind of like really sort of reigned in sort of like the design sphere. And then when you kind of think of like gradients, they are these kind of delightful condiments that you kind of sprinkle all around an app kind of thing to kind of like, oh, this is nice. Think Spotify's duotone gradients on their playlist, you know, it's overall the kind of interface is very plain, but then when you go to their playlist, it's like, ooh, and there's also like a lot of kind of like meaning behind the colors they use. And I think like, and it's also very subtle as well. It's usually like very subtle. It's usually like the same color, but in two different kind of levels of brightness. When Emma first started, I think there was one like particular widget that went from like red to pink to orange, and I think like those kind of like transitions are a bit too steep and a bit too noisy. So like for me personally, I think they've come a long way to kind of like lessen the noise in that, and it's a bit more subtle. Personally, I'd like to see a bit more flat colors, because I feel like I said, gradients are supposed to be this nice sort of delightful thing that you could kind of like, oh yeah, hey, and then you see a reason for it. And also something I've noticed about Emma is that it's kind of hard to flesh out their design language or like their color scheme from their app, because there's a lot of like colors going on here and there that I think Emma are actually like purple. Yeah. And like there's not much of it you'd see dotted about the place. So but yeah, outside of that, big fan of what they do. And
what do you think that actually does for the user? Like not sticking to a comprehensive design pattern.
It kind of doesn't. It gives you that kind of like feeling of you know, compatriotism. You know, this is my brand, and I noticed this brand. You know, Monzo with like their whether it's their coral pink or like their sort of dark navy blue, you kind of know that these are the Monzo colors. Revolut with their strong blues and their like whites, and then also like less coral pink but more sort of pink. You kind of like begin to identify with this brand, and I think like Emma don't particularly do a good job at like making me identify with the Emma brand via their design language, but outside of that, I think they do a great job at just sort of like being a great aggregator in the PFM platform.
Very good. Just to clarify, we do know it's hot coral. Monzo, don't sue Tunde. He's a good designer. We like him. So there is, I kind of agree with you on that perspective. I think I don't understand enough about color to be able to talk in any capacity about what you've just said. But the thing that I'm looking at here is the sort of the typeface and the calls to action and the bottom navigation and all that kind of stuff. Everything seems like it's in the right place. And we were talking a little bit earlier about the idea of being able to modify and really simply contextualize your own dashboard experience for yourself. It seems like they do a pretty good job there.
No, they do. And like I said, that customization aspect for me, like that really stands out to me. Like I said earlier, you know, there's a variety of reasons as why you want to come to an aggregator. So like being allowed to kind of like personalize your experience for yourself, as opposed to like this sort of like blanket one size fits all. I think that's like a really like good way to stand out amongst the pack. So kudos to Emma for me.
Very good. You can actually see that full journey in 11FS Pulse. It's for our current users, you just type in Emma Analytics and Insights, or just type in the Emma brand and you'll be able to find that. So go check it out for yourselves and see what you think about it. And then, yeah, if you disagree with Tunde or myself, then we'll be happy to hear your feedback on it. But I think that's kind of all we've got time for today. Thanks very much for tuning in. If you want to see more of 11FS Pulse, head over to pulse.11fs.com. That's our website. And if you've got any questions about the product or want to suggest a journey for us, hit us up at pulse@11fs.com or on pulse@11fspulse on Twitter. Thanks very much.